Hello everyone, this is Sarge from the Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy. While we are all holed up in our cozy homes, waiting out the storm of the coronavirus, I've been thinking about ways in which people can interact with nature right from their doorstep. During the day, we may not notice, but a whole entire universe of nature floats above us in silence and only reveals itself in the darkest of nights. And growing up, my dad had a telescope stowed away in the attic, and I remember the first time he set it up out in the front lawn to show me Saturn. And I'll never forget how inspiring that was. I'd like to try and bring that same awe to you and help you all break out your telescopes if you have one, or explore the sky with your own two eyes. So I've prepared a nice video for you on how to set up your telescope. I hope you all enjoy. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, and you can leave them below. Thanks. All right, so maybe at this point you've gotten excited, ran upstairs and found that telescope of yours. For the casual stargazer, you could just take it, go outside, set it up, and point it at the moon or wherever, and get a great observation. But for those of you who are a little bit more curious on how the telescope works and how to use the mount or the telescope to your advantage when making observations, stick around. We're going to go in depth onto this specific telescope and the other kinds you may see as well. Okay. Your telescope will have one of two mounts, either an alt-azimuth mount or a German equatorial mount. For those who are for an alt-azimuth mount, you will just be able to set it up, and it sits on basically a lazy Susan. It can swivel in 360 degrees, go to all angles, and it works really, really well with computers. You can just put in a coordinate, it'll go right to it. The other kind of mount, which is the mount that I have on this telescope, is the German equatorial mount. This one has a bunch more cogs and gears and fine-tuning pegs to aim your telescope, and is much more complicated than the alt-azimuth, but at the same time can teach you a lot more about how the sky works and how to navigate the sky. Because I have the German equatorial mount, I'm going to walk through how to set this up and how it can be of a benefit to you. So first, what we're going to do to set up our telescope for an observation is we're going to polar align it with Polaris, the North Star. I'll explain a little bit later why exactly we're pointing it north, but for now I'm going to walk through the pieces of the telescope and then show you how to polar align it. So there are three main axes that this mount has. You have your latitude over here, this main knob here. You have your right ascension, this large cog here, and your declination. All right, and I'll also go through and explain why each of these has certain numbers. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to move the entire telescope, including the tripod. We're going to point it north. So currently, from where we are, north is this way. I'm inside, so I can't show you the North Star, but north is this way. So we're going to pick up the entire telescope, and we're going to point it in its general direction. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and open up a compass here, just to make sure we're in the right direction. Okay. North. All right. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to center the mount so that it is aiming north. We want the mount to be pointing in the direction of north. So we're going to loosen our right ascension and declination. We're going to straighten it out first. And then we're going to move the telescope again. Okay. now we're pointing north, and the mount itself is centered and pointing north. Okay. Next, after we have positioned our telescope in the northern direction, we're going to change our latitude. This will be different for everybody. It depends on where you are in relativity to the equator. So if we come over here, on this mount specifically, we have numbers from 0 to 90 degrees, representing degree of latitude. So what this is going to do is it's going to angle our telescope in the direction in which our, sorry, that was the tight and loosen. It's going to angle us in relation to the equator towards the North Star. And since we are currently in South Carolina, we are roughly at about 34 degrees. So we're at about 30, and 35 is in the middle there. So we're just gonna go a little bit before the middle, right about there. Quite a lot of inclination gained on this telescope. But, so now that you've set latitude and you're pointing north, you're pretty much pointing at the North Star at this point. No more further adjustment is needed. For simple observations, you don't have to be pointing right at it. Unless you're practicing astrophotography, because that can be really sensitive, especially when you're taking in lots of light and things are moving. You want to make sure you are on the North Star so that your photo will be moving with Earth's rotation. Now what makes this mount so special is the efficiency of it once you get it locked in on whatever you are observing. So since we're inside, we're going to aim at this lovely photo over here. And so from your polar aligned position, you're not going to move the mount at all. All you're going to do is loosen your right ascension and your declination axes to where they can free movely, and then you're going to rotate and change your incline and point it in the general direction of what you are trying to examine. Once you're in a pretty decent spot, if you have a finder on your telescope, you can turn that on and use that to line up the dot. If not, you can eyeball it, especially if it's a moon or a planet. You can eyeball it pretty well. Eyeball it with a lovely photo, and then lock it in place. Now, from here, I can still move it, but what I've prevented is just like, I've prevented it from moving slowly out of its position. It's in tight enough to where it won't come out of its current position. All right. Next, what you'll do is, if you're not quite locked in on it, you can use your eyepiece in conjunction with these fine tuners, which turn the right ascension and declination axes to get the image into the telescope. So you can just shuffle between each one, shift it around, and once you think you have it in place, then you can focus your eyepiece here. Okay? So now that we're all aimed and focused in on our object, while you are viewing that object, whether it be the moon or planet or even a group of stars, you'll probably notice you'll look through and be like, oh, I finally got it in. And you'll run inside, you'll go find somebody to come look at your image, and then you'll come right back and it's gone. That's because we are currently moving in space constantly. So what this mount does is it helps you keep track of that object very easily as we turn away from it. So if that picture was moving because we're rotating, all we have to do, now that we are polar aligned and locked in, we don't even have to touch the right ascension. All we have to do is turn our declination axis. And what this will do, all you have to do is very slowly turn it. And you may not see it moving, but it very slowly, it'll follow the moon or whatever planet you're looking at. For a more exaggerated view, if we loosen this axis, imagine that you have an orbit going through the sky. If we're only moving this axis, it'll go up to its highest point in its orbit, and it'll come all the way back down to its sunset. So, sunset, up, highest point, which, fun fact, is the coordinate for right ascension, the time in which your object or star is at the highest point in the sky. So this would be the highest point, and whatever that number is will be reflected on the right ascension axis. And just go all the way back down to the other side where it's under the hemisphere. So yeah. All right. After all that, now you have your telescope set up to view anything in the northern hemisphere. You can look at the moon. You can look at any of the planets except for the more further gas giants Neptune and Uranus, unless you have a much more powerful telescope. But Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, and Mars are all visible through your telescope. And then you may even be able to get some more deep space constellations and nebulas with a really nice eyepiece. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I appreciate that. I hope this helps you figure out your telescope. It was hard for me and I did a lot of research. There are some great resources I'm going to put in the video, some links, and a special thanks to Bernie Argieri for teaching me how to use this telescope originally, and I really hope this is up to par for him. But thank you again all for watching, and I hope you all stay safe.